Hello and welcome to Fix My Photo. Usually we do another segment before this, but we're just going to go straight into this. And this is where I work on the photographs that you guys uploaded. Now, if you want to submit your photos, upload them to fixmyphoto.net. And, that'll take you to a Dropbox link where you can upload preferably a RAW file. If you don't have a RAW file, as large a JPEG as you can get in there. Submit your photos, no more than 3 photos per person per week. And put your name in the file name so we know who to shout out and whose photos we're working on. So that's all of that out of the way. All right, now we're going to get into all the fun stuff. So I'm just going to get my screen up and running here. And here we go. And right now, here we are inside of Adobe Bridge, and I'm just going to drop it down a little bit. And we got some nice submissions this week. We got quite a few. Now, I believe, John, these are not for Live from Lockdown. I think he was sending those for other reasons, but we've got a lot of nice ones here that we want to look at. I definitely want to look. Is Henry in the house? We're going to look at one of Henry's photographs. If I call out your name, let me know there. And, just so we can acknowledge you and also interact if we need to. So we're going to look at something from Henry this week. We're going to have a look at something from Ian Clark. We're going to look at one of your photos this week. And we're just going to kind of see where we go from there. I definitely do want to, I think we're going to look at Tom Hackett's, and I definitely want to talk to Mandy about some things, and possibly Lynn Clark as well. So, and we'll see where we go. We might look at some other ones, but if you're here and I called out your name, just let us know, and that way, we know it's yours and we can acknowledge you on the photos. So I do want to start with something from Henry McCrea. These are beautiful photos that Henry has submitted. Let's zoom in a little bit and just have a look at them. We're only going to work on one, of course. But these are gorgeous landscape photos. Look at that. Really nice. Beautiful work. And, I find out that's really good. So I think this week, we're going to start with this one. We're going to jump into there. So let us know if you're here, Henry. I see Tom's here. There you are. All right, Henry. Let us know where these photos were shot. Just type in there if you want to give a little background on those. That would be great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this, and it's going to open it inside of Camera Raw. This is where we're going to get started. And if my email said I was managing brushes and presets, I apologize. That was an older email. Should not have said that. Because today we're doing Fix My Photo. We're working on photographs today. So we're going to be doing enhancing and fixing photos. So I apologize to you there, Diane. I must have sent out last week's email again to you. I apologize. All right, so let's have a look. But trust me, you're going to enjoy this week. So the first thing we're going to do is let's examine what we've got to work with. So I see we've got this in the distance here. We've got the mountain and the clouds. It's very bright. And then in the foreground, it's dark. So we've got some mixed lighting there. There's good dynamic range there because this is a RAW file. But what we want to do is see how much dynamic range we've got to play with. So let's go to the exposure slider and drag it down. And I'm pulling it down here and I'm saying, okay, we've got some good detail here in the clouds. We can bring this out. So that's good. What if we go to work with the highlights? We can see here, all right, nothing is blowing out. So we're able to recover pretty much everything we want from this photograph. And that's good news. So this is going to help us, just plan the shot. That's a beautiful river, by the way. And so I want to bring out a little bit of the detail in the background. There's many ways we could do this. Sometimes we can just recover the highlights. And look at that. That's going to get us there. So you can mask, you can do different things, but I'm a big fan of taking the easiest way, and if I can recover highlights and it's going to bring out the detail there in the clouds, I'm good with that. Let's pop open our exposure a little bit more. And let's recover those highlights a little bit more. All right, that's a good starting place. Now, I can open up these shadows notice I was pushing the exposure, seeing how far I could get, because I prefer to use exposure than shadow. And if you look at the image when I turn up exposure, see how it just kind of looks there? Compared to if I recover the shadow. See how it kind of, it starts to make it look a little bit more artificial because it's not getting the midtones, it's not adjusting everything so evenly. So what I try to do is get my more even adjustments or the big moves done first, and then we can go in and do, you know, the tweaking. So that's looking pretty good. We can open up those shadows a little bit more. And right now I'm just looking into the areas of the trees here. I just want to get a little color in there. I don't want those to be completely washed out. So let's have a look. What we've done here is before and after. And all we've done right now is we've just set our overall tone or set our overall exposure. Now there's different things we could do. You know, we could go in and grab these adjustment brushes if we wanted. And this is in Camera Raw right now. So some of the stuff we'll do in Camera Raw, some of the stuff we'll do inside of, you know, the main Photoshop, just so you know. So I'm thinking about these trees, and I'm just going to paint on these trees. You're not going to see anything happen right now until I turn mask options on. And there we go. I'm just kind of picking it there, and this is just to get me started. And notice the auto mask is on. So if you're looking for auto mask and you go there, see that little arrow? Or the triangle, just tap on that triangle and it will open the panel, and auto mask is there and it will help detect those edges. Let's turn off the mask options, and we're just going to turn up our exposure a little bit and see how we can brighten up just that one area. So why don't we just bring it up a little bit? I'm going to warm it up a little, and we can just kind of see. So now if I want to paint on any of the trees, all I need to do now is just paint with these same settings. And notice I can just kind of get the tops of those trees now. So we can get into some of these areas that maybe were a little shadowy. And if it's too much, just bring it back. It's just a very, very subtle thing we want to do there. Alright, so that's kind of nice. And the next thing I want to do is I want to get something going with this water, because this water is really exciting. So what I'm going to do is hit the plus so we can create a new brush. I'm going to choose the mask option, and I'm just going to paint in the water here, just to select it. And I'm just hitting the left bracket key to make this a little smaller. I might not have needed that white. We can always remove that later if we don't want it. So I'm just selecting it. Let's turn off the mask options, and let's see what we can do with this. So now we've got the water selected, and this is on it should be on a new brush. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's a different brush. See how that brush up there? And if we click on it, it'll select it. If we roll over this, it'll show where it is, and we click on it, we'll select it. I'm just going to hit here to reset everything. So there we are, reset. And let's have a look. Maybe we want to just brighten this up a little bit. Let's hit those whites a little, just a little touch. Play around with those exposure, but not too much. Don't want it glowing where it's looking artificial. We can give it a little, maybe a little reduction of contrast. I'm just looking in there. Just seeing what we can do just to make it pop a little bit. We don't want to go crazy with it. We just want to pop it. Maybe we could hit a little clarity in there in that water. Maybe turn the texture down. Oh, make sure it's selected. There we go. What happens if we hit that clarity? Oh, there we go. And I'm just going to cover those highlights a little bit more. Alright, so we're just kind of playing around with that, just trying to, you know, just hit that a little bit more just to make that water really pop. And then if we look at this before and after, you see we're bringing out a lot of detail and just showing more detail. So this is kind of like, you know, one direction we could go where we just want to give this, you know, maximum shadows and highlights. I don't feel like we need to do a lot to this image because it's a really beautiful photograph. I'm going to go up here and do overall adjustments. Let's see what happens if we warm up the temperature a little bit. Does that help us or does that hurt us? So we could go, you know, either way with this. We could warm it up a little, or we could cool it down, or we could grab our eyedropper here and let's just look for an area that would be white or neutral gray. And we can just kind of click on that and it'll just kind of reset our color tones. See how we can just change the feel of that? So I'm curious what you guys like. Do you like it looking warmer or do you like it looking cooler? Let me know in the comments. Cooler. Tracy likes it cooler. Can you move to the image to the other side so we can... Oh, sorry. Yes, let me do that. I apologize. Let me move that over. Okay, so you guys can see a little bit better now. All right, so the other thing we could do is something, I don't do that often in here, and that's to apply a color graduated filter. So let's go here. We're going to grab the graduated filter. We're going to pull it down a little bit. So we're just starting from the top to the bottom. Nothing is showing yet. But what we're going to do is we are going to just do a little bit of color. See where it says color? Just tap on there. And we're going to grab some blue. Oops, let me undo that. I went to grab that color picker and it picked it all the way through there. Let me undo that, cancel. There we go. And let's do that again. Make sure that's selected. Tap on color. And if you look at this, see what we're doing there is we're adding some blue in there. See how we can just kind of add that in, just give it a little bit of color. You probably don't want to go crazy like that. Click OK, and let's grab the bottom. And you can see what we can do there is we can go in and we can add that little bit of color and make it cooler at the top and warmer at the bottom. That's another option. All right, so we're just going to click, let's just click done. And we're going to go in here and look at some other things. All right, so one of the things I do want to talk about, and then we'll fix this other one, but one of the things I want to talk about is Mandy. Are you here, Mandy? Let me know. I'm looking for Mandy. All right, so Mandy shot this shot. I mean, these are really cute little girls. Really nice shot. And she shot it against the green screen. Let me just brighten this up a little bit. And I know the goal here is, hey, let's shoot against the green screen and it's going to be easier to cut out. Let me just mute my mic. I'm just going to change my thermostat. All right, there we go. I just muted that for a sec so I didn't set off everybody's smart speakers. All right, so I'm going to open this and we're going to talk about this for a sec. So this we can cut this out, but to be honest, the green screen is not helping us, and I'll tell you why, for several reasons. Green screens work really well with video, because video, you've got a lot of motion, your subject is going, you can't really, mask out every frame. And the reason green is chosen is just because it's a color that's not commonly used. Back in the earlier days, they used to use blue, now they use it green. And, you don't have green skin generally or hair. If you were wearing green clothes, your clothes would disappear. And maybe part of the reason it's gone to green instead of blue, you're wearing blue jeans a lot. Those blue jeans are going to disappear if you have a blue screen. But so there's nothing particularly magical about the color green. It's just a color that's easy to isolate in the masking software in things like Premiere Pro or After Effects. But now when we're working here inside of Photoshop, or we're doing it for photography, it's actually a better idea to be shooting against a neutral background. In this case, you probably wouldn't use white because of the white dresses. You probably wouldn't use black because of the dark hair, but maybe a gray might work really well. And so I know when I do a lot of my keying, I don't do it against a green screen for photography. I do it against, white, black, or gray. And another reason for that is when you get a lot of light hitting it, if you look at here, you're not seeing it too bad, but you see there's a little green coming through the transparency here on the dress. Same with the other dress. I mean, it might make it easier to isolate the transparency, but also we're going to get, just kind of green spill coming through. Just seeing if maybe Mandy's going to watch the replay, but there's another couple of things I do want to bring attention to. One is make sure you don't have these folds in the green screen. You really want to get that green screen lit nice and evenly. And there's another thing that I don't think is happening here, and that's you want to illuminate this green screen. So you light your subject, but then you should, as evenly as possible, hit this with a light on both sides, so you're creating an even area of green around your subject. and make sure that that's properly lit. Now there's another issue in here, and let me just double click. I'm really not trying to pull this apart because this is a beautiful photograph. But the thing, if the goal here is keying, do you see what's wrong here? I'm going to give you guys a second to see if you can tell me what's wrong. And this is really going to complicate the process. I'm going to give you guys a second there for the chat. We have just, a short delay, so that's why we have to wait. And let me know, guys. And since there's a delay, I'm going to give it away before it comes in there, because someone will say it by the time we get there. Here's a big problem, is the focus is on the backdrop and not on our subjects. If you look at the screen here, you can see the texture in the green screen, but notice it's soft on our subject. When you're photographing people, you always want to have your focus on the eyes. So you want to have those eyes sharp. So I don't know. Yeah, hard to tell on the monitor. It might be hard for you guys to see that because of the resolution. But yeah, so what's happening right now is the green screen, the fabric in the backdrop is sharp and in focus, and our subjects in the foreground are soft. And that's going to be very problematic when it comes to things like hair and different things like that, because those are out of focus, so it's going to be harder to select them. So I just wanted to just bring all that to your attention. Now that we know that, let's have a look at how we're going to extract them. Now we're not going to get a perfect extraction because of those things I just mentioned to you. In this case, there's not too much of a problem with spill. There's a little bit there. See the green kind of, and that's just reflecting off that screen. The way to avoid that is to create more separation between the background and the subject. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go under the filter, and we want to go down, actually we're going to go to select, and we're going to choose color range.
Is set to 74.
All right, sorry guys, I had to set that. Right now we're having a heat wave. It's 90 something degrees and it's really hot. So I had to kick that air in. All right, so what we're going to do now that we've turned on color range, we're going to use the green color to select this photograph. All right, so what you want to do is use the eyedropper, and then you're going to bring the eyedropper close. But notice, because we have the shadow here, because we didn't light the back of that green screen, there's a lot of different shades of green going on here. When we've got a more even green, it's definitely a lot easier. Now, don't feel bad. I'm definitely not saying this to run down the work here. It's beautiful work. It's just, things to learn. All right, so I'm going to click there with that green, and notice we start to see that selection there. So now we're going to grab the little selection tool with the plus on it. And why don't we go down to some of the darker areas of green? See that? And notice I'm clicking close to a subject. You can click and drag too if you want to select multiple tones. I'm not too worried about the green out here. This, you can do what's called garbage matte, that where you just create a marquee selection and just delete it. What we're worried about is the stuff that's close to our subject. And this is what we're getting for our mask edge. If you want to see this a little bit better, let me zoom in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into selection preview. We're going to change this to grayscale. And now we can see the edges. The black areas are the areas that are going to be kept. The white areas are the areas that are not going to be kept. And then the gray areas are the area where it's going to be semi-transparent. So now we're just going to adjust the fuzziness. If we go that way, it's too much. We can clean up that screen, but just be careful. So do you want to go this way or do you want to go that way is the question. So this is what you want to do. If we look at this, we're just going to change this one to image. We can see, and in fact, I'll go back here so you guys can just see it easier. We've got transparency down here. This is almost full transparency. And we've got some semi-transparency on those edges and here in the sleeves. So what we want to be doing is looking at those. Those areas should be just turning gray. So let's brighten it up a little bit and see how those are becoming gray now. that means that these areas are going to show that transparency now. And so that's a good amount. Now, we could really be concerned about the hair if we wanted, but in this case, you know, you're focusing really on getting a good clean mask, and you might go back and do the hair separately if you don't quite get it in the first go. Alright, so let's just click OK. Alright, so we've selected this. Now I want to inverse this selection, Command-Shift-I, and you could get there under Select Inverse. And now we want to go into Select and Mask, but notice Select and Mask is not available because we didn't use the selection tools. There's an easy workaround. All we do is just select one of the, turn on one of the selection tools, and now Select and Mask is available. And it's like, oh yeah, he selected it with this. No, we didn't, but Photoshop doesn't know the difference. As long as these tools are selected, we have access to Select and Mask. So now we're going to click on Select and Mask. This is going to bring us into the Select and Mask workspace. And right now we're viewing it on white. We could view it on black. You know, the black and white, there's our mask that we worked on. We could look at it on black, or we could work it on white. I think we're going to work in black. And see that color spill I was telling you guys about? See how we're getting that green spilling through? That's one of the things you're going to get from using a green screen. Alright, so let me zoom in here. And we're going to move, but it's okay, we've got tools to get rid of that. I'm just going to find my Wacom pen here. And let's have a look at the hair. I don't know how good we're going to get the hair, but let's go and choose it on white so we can see it. And part of the reason I'm a little bit worried about this is because, you know, once again, the background was in focus, so we're not working with sharply focused objects right now. So I'm going to make this mask a little bit smaller, and we're just going to go around the hair here. One of the nice things about using this refine brush is the more you work on the selection, the better it gets. It cleans up that selection. So we're just going around those hairs, just trying to just clean up those edges. Don't worry about that little halo around the edge. We can deal with that separately, that little border there. What I'm looking for here is just to get a good selection around the hair, or as good as we can get. And here's a little thing. It's very rare you're going to get perfect hair selections. Sometimes it's better to go back afterwards and literally just paint some of the hairs in, you know, when they break like that, because you can spend way more time trying to get those and they're still going to look fake. So sometimes you just flatten it off and then just paint those back in, just with a very, very thin 1 pixel brush. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of pain and time doing it that way. Alright, so this refine brush is just going around. We're just kind of picking up the hair in different areas. And I'm just going to kind of just scoot around here, just kind of looking at the edges. You know, there's some areas you could go in here and clean up. I'm not going to get too crazy carried away with it. But this refine brush works very, very well with the soft edges. Alright, so that's not bad, actually. It's not too bad at all. So let me zoom out. And watch what happens when we turn on decontaminate colors. Watch these green fringes. Decontaminate colors on. Boom. Look at that. Gets rid of all that green fringing. So that works really good. That really saves your bacon when it comes to working with the green screens. And then if we go down here and we're going to output this to a new layer with a layer mask, and we're going to click OK. And boom. There we go. We've extracted our beautiful little princesses here, and they're all ready to be dropped into another background somewhere. So, you know, once again, I do want to say, Mandy, beautiful photograph. Good job of, you know, the posing, the costuming, and everything like that. The lighting looks really good. You've done a really nice job on the princesses here. Just, you know, those tips will help you if you know, using the green screen, which will help you just make it a little easier next time. Alright, so let's go into here. Now, I'm going to bring up a challenge that Tony's done. Tony Mule, are you here? Yeah, you are. You are just mean. I'm sorry, you are just completely mean to give a photograph like this. But what I'm going to do, I'm not going to go through and cut this out because this really is a difficult image. I mean, look at this. We've got a chain link fence behind it with green grass behind a green tree. I mean, you really could not have made this any more difficult. One of the things I would suggest doing, if you're wanting to isolate, because that's what he was saying, he wanted to isolate this tree. If you're wanting to isolate this, my suggestion would be get a massive, big old piece of foam core, and go and stick it behind that tree and take a picture. Because this background, there's no magic bullet. There's no, okay, let me click in here and then choose select subject. Okay, got some of it, but it's not gonna go in here and magically select the whole thing. So this is going to require what's known as sweat equity. So I'm just going to use the object select, and let's just see how good it goes just with the shift key, and you can just kind of go around these areas just, using the AI selections inside of Photoshop to just kind of get a start. And I'm telling you, you're not going to get there with the, the automatic tools. But it'll get you a start, right? So we're going in here, and we're basically isolating the areas that we want to cut out. So this is going to be more of a strategy lesson, I think, than us actually going through and doing the entire image. All right, so this is, I'm just going to show you what I would do for this strategy. Is Tony laughing at me yet? Rod Shelley doesn't feel so bad. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the mask here, and we're masking it out, and we can see, all right, this is what we've got. I'd like to see the background a little bit as well. So we're just going to double click on that mask and pull down the mask density. And is there anything that we've missed out? Not really. We've pretty much got that plant. Yep, we do. So we've got the plant, and now it's just a matter of, this is where the not so fun work is. You're literally just going to have to go in and select the areas you want to get out of there. Let's see if this can do it. I don't know if the AI is that good. That's pretty impressive. Alt option to take away. Alright, so you can literally go in and do these little bits, and then you're just going to fill those with black to add to the selections. And this is essentially what you're going to do. You're just going to go through like this. And I say you because I'm not going to do the whole image. This is on you, Tony. And so, we're getting there. This, I gotta say, maybe I'll change this to the lasso. I gotta say this little, object selection tool is really quite amazing. I'm very impressed with it. And we're gonna go here and Alt Option, and then when you're done doing all of that, you turn your density back up. And then, you would get all these areas just like I did. And you're getting these edges are not terrible. But then you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to go in here and I'm going to grab a brush. Let me zoom in. You could use the, oh man, that would be so painful. I was going to say you could use the pen tool. Oh my gosh. No, that would just be painful. We could try the quick selection in some of these areas here. So you just start to go into the tighter areas, fill them with black. And essentially that's what you're doing. You're just going to have to go over this, just all these little areas, filling with black as you go, until you get, let me hit the Alt option if I go too far. And that's it. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be going over this whole image like that. You're going to go up here, you're going to select it, you're going to do exactly the same thing. And eventually you'll get a perfect selection out of that. Now, I don't think you guys want me to spend the rest of the session. I think, in the next 30 minutes, I could definitely get this. And that's what you're going to have to do there, Tony. Just keep doing what I was doing there, and that'll get you there. All right, Tom Hackett. Are you here, Tom? Okay, we're popping to open Tom Hackett's photograph. And let's just check in with the chat here really quick. See if there's any questions or anything like that you guys need. Nenad likes the stream. Well, thanks. Thanks for liking the stream. I'm glad you could join us. We're glad you're here. All right, sweat equity, a few glasses of wine, you know, whatever it takes. Tony, you're not sorry. You're just saying you're sorry. Come on, lots of coffee. Coffee, well, coffee will get you there, but you know, I don't know about you, Rod, but sometimes it gets hard to do those really fine edged when you have too much coffee and your hand's shaking like a leaf. All right, let's have a look at this. Tom Hackett sent this, and I pretty much know what he wants to do with this image. Seeing if he's there. He hasn't answered, so... You know, we've got this photograph, and obviously the people are too bright, so there's this pool of sunlight. There's a rainbow in there. Pardon me. It might be tough to really pop that rainbow, but it could be done. Yeah, and as Bruce is saying, please listen to Bruce. When he asks you to hit the subscribe button, he's always right. And smash the like button. So that's the thumbs up for you, Ralph Nelson, if you're here. I'm never gonna let you live that one down. So yeah, if you guys are liking this, just hit that thumbs up or the like button. What it does is it just helps the algorithm, and it, you know, and lets YouTube let people know that we're here and we're live streaming. And if you haven't subscribed, just click that subscribe button, and you know. I did not want to tell Nikki that, Bruce. All right, so let's go ahead and work on this image here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm thinking we're going to grab our adjustment brush again. And let's turn on our mask options. And we don't want to do the whole thing, we just want to do this brighter area. So I'm going to show you a nice way to work. We're just going to paint over this brighter area, you know, where that sun beam is coming through. And we're going to turn off the mask options. But mask options just shows the mask. I don't know why it's called mask options. Well, I guess because you can click here and change the color. Okay, that makes sense. So you can go there and make it blue. Alright, so mask options. Anyway, so what we want to do is we just want to hit the area that is bright. And here's a nice little tool. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but if you go down to the bottom, here's something called range mask. And range mask is in any of the localized adjustments. That would be the brush, the gradient, or the radial tool. And if we turn on range masking, we've got the three options. One is we can make a selection based on color. That would be kind of like color range in Photoshop. Luminance is based on brightness. And in depth, that's if you're using an HEIC image, you know, from like a mobile phone when you're shooting in portrait mode and it creates a depth map. That depth map can actually come through into Camera Raw and Lightroom. By the way, if you're a Lightroom user, all these settings are identical. Alright, so what we're going to do is, I think you guys know what we're going to do. We're going to choose luminance because we want to make this selection based on brightness. I'm going to turn on visualize luminance map. And if we do that, we can see, you know, where we are. Okay, you know what? I had a problem there. I can see a problem already by doing that. We had auto mask turned on. Let's turn that off and paint because we want to make sure we're selecting our bright subjects. So that's one of the times where auto mask is not good. Great. So that revealed that. And now we're in luminance. Let's go back to our luminance here. And we want to go on, let me turn off this so you can see something here. Notice there it's black and there it's white. So let's turn on the map. And we know this side is white. So if I pull that down, notice it takes away that selection from the white. We don't want that. We want to take away the selection from the dark. See that? So now it's protecting the darker areas. So when we make those adjustments, we're only going to be hitting those lighter areas. Let's turn off the visualize luminance map, and I'll show you what happens when we make this adjustment now. So now if we recover our highlights, which we always want to do first on something that's too bright, and we take our exposure and turn our exposure down. Now we can balance the exposure. Notice it's too bright up there. We just click and the same settings apply as we paint there now because we're using this luminance map. Let me show you what happens if we don't use the luminance map. See what happens? It starts to get all these other areas very, very dark. When I pull it across, notice what it's doing is it's isolating our adjustment just to that area that we want to hit. So it's protecting that and allowing us. Now, of course, I didn't paint over here. If I paint over here, let me just show you. See how that gets super dark? Then you pull the luminance map, see how that color comes back? So it just makes it more obvious. It's happening here as well. It's just not so obvious. I just wanted to really make it obvious for you guys. So now that we've balanced out the tones a little bit more, now we can go to the overall adjustments. We can warm up the temperature, make it a little bit warmer. Play around for our exposure. Maybe open up those shadows a little bit. Whites, blacks. You know, maybe give it a pop of vibrance. And let's look at what we had before and what we had after. So notice now by using that luminance map, we can really go into the area that was blown out, isolate that, and get a little bit better of a cutout, not a cutout, of an adjustment there. So we can target where we want that to go. All right, what else we got here? These photos, by the way, David Morin, are you here? Your photos are beautiful. Say hello if you're there. And photo, can you adjust saturation in there, just the area to the right of the girls? Oh, sorry, I completely did not. To bring out the rainbow, yes, you can, by the way. All you need to do is just grab the brush and then just turn up the saturation on the brush, and you can just paint that wherever you want. So yes, absolutely you could. All right. Loving these pictures. Let's see if we got time. We'll play around with one of these, but they don't need much work. Please, free to laugh now. Go ahead, ask a question. That's why we're here. All right, so Ian Clark. Are you here, Ian? I want to work on your photograph next. So, looks like there's Ian's shot there. So this is the original shot. And this is what Ian did. You've done a good job there, Ian. I see you've done some geometric fixing. You've done some noise reduction. It's looking good. Nice. All right. Well, let's see what we can do. And this is, I recognize that building in the background. So this is in Dubai, I believe. All right. Here we go, Ian. Good to see you there. So I take it you were in Dubai recently. If not, that looks like a building in Dubai. All right. So this is going to be my approach. I'm looking at this. I see several things, and so did you, obviously. One is color correction, I think, is the biggest thing. So I'm looking at starting at the biggest, and then we're going to go in. I want to fix the color correction. We want to fix this geometric distortion, because we're shooting what are we at as far as a lens here? 24 mils, so it's really wide. That's why that's happening. We've got a little flare here, which is not really helping. We'll get rid of that. Sometimes flares can look good, but in this case it's not. And then noise reduction. So those are the things we're going to do. So one of the things you want to learn to do is, before you work on a photo, just look at it and analyze it and figure out, okay, what am I going to fix? What are the big things here? So you have a plan when you go in. You know, because if you just go in and start moving sliders, does this look better? Does this look worse? You can get confusing and difficult to work. So just make sure that we do that. All right, so first thing is the overall color balance. Let's hit that first. All right, so we have some options here. We could cool this just by dragging and say, you know what, this looks better cool. And maybe even pull the tint a little bit to the greens. We could do that. Now, I'm guessing that these buildings were not white, that they're kind of like a creamy color. If they were white, we could choose the white balance tool and just click on them, set that to white. And that gives us a different look, but you can see over here it's not looking very good. So we've got a lot of mixed lighting going on here. So what we want to do is I'm just going to undo, and we're going to go back to here, because I think this is a good mix. If you wanted these to be a different color balance, you could definitely go in here and, you know, adjust them. Just make those selections, of course, and then, you know, cool these down and paint those individually. A little too green. There we go. So, you know, you could do that, and of course mask these out. We didn't have auto mask on, so we can just go here. Let me show you the mask options. Blue's not going to work. So we're just going to take away with the eraser. We've got the eraser tool, auto mask. You just clean up those edges. Turn off mask option. Okay, so if that was something that you wanted to do, you could do that. We're just going to treat this as just straight light. So I'm just going to undo that, and we're not going to treat this as a split light. But I just wanted to show you guys, if you wanted to do that, if you have mixed lighting and you wanted to change the lighting, that's how you do it. In this case, we'll just work with this together. So I like to give options. All right, so let's try and get this a little bit better. I'm going to push it there. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now we're going to do our tonal. Let's increase our highlights a little bit, so recover those. Maybe pop the shadows. Nice. So we've got some decent tones here. All right, geometric distortion. Let's have a look at that. So one of the things you want to do is go down to the geometry. And you can see we've got some options here where we can do some things with that. But before we do that, we want to go up to optics and turn on the profile. Because notice right now there's no profile. So let's use a profile correction. And notice it got brighter. And the reason it got brighter is because it's fixing the vignetting around the edges. See that? So it's cleaning that up. Now, if you like the vignetting, we could go down here, and this is picks up the camera and the lens from a database. And if you prefer that vignetting, you could bring it back a little bit. So you have that option. So far we're just doing everything automatically. Now what we want to do is we want to go down to geometry. You could allow Photoshop, this is Camera Raw in Photoshop, to do this automatically if you wanted to use upright. Just click the little A here, and that will use an upright. There's an automatic adjustment. Let me undo that because it's a little aggressive. We're going to manually do it. And once again, you'll see these little triangles all over the place. Just tap those, and that's where all your options are. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to fix it vertically. So we're just going to drag that. And that's going to, just kind of fix some of that vertical. If we want to do horizontal, we can do that. We might rotate it just slightly. And I also, let me go down a little bit more. I think that's not looking too bad. All right, so notice though we've got all these areas of transparency. We can fix those by clicking on Constrain Crop. One of the things I would definitely do is I would grab the crop tool here because we've got people taking a photo there. We wouldn't really necessarily want them in the shot. If you don't want it constrained, just turn that off. And then, we can just do that. So right now, let me unlock the aspect ratio because I want to be able to make it a little bit taller. That hand may bother you, it may not. You can crop it in or out. It's up to you. All right, so I'm going to apply that. All right, we're getting pretty close. Let's get rid of this flare. We're just going to grab our healing brush. Just make it a little bigger, tap once. Let's get rid of that. Next thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the noise. Because if we look at this, there's a lot of noise here. Let's go to 100%. Very grainy. And that's not surprising because right now he's shooting at 22,000 ISO. And it's great that your camera can go up there. That's wonderful. All right, so what we can do is we're going to go up under our main adjustments again. And notice you'll see these little circles on the edges. This lets us know that changes have been made inside of those tools. These tools used to be across the top. They're now on the side. And if you want to know more, I do have an in-depth training on Camera Raw that I did recently. And these little eyes here show you that adjustments have been made inside these modules. And if you're interested in that training, I'll just mention it quickly. It's on photoshopcafe.com. Not trying to sell it, but that's what we have. All right, so we're going to go here, and now we're going to go into detail, and we want to do the noise reduction. The color noise reduction is already turned on. See when I look at this, see how you can see the speckles, the color speckles? Color noise reduction gets rid of the color speckles. And I just took it a little lower than it was by default. And then under the noise reduction, we can smoothen this out. See how far we can go. So one of the things you got to watch is it will start to soften the image. And we can kind of make up for that sometimes, by increasing the detail. There's no detail, there's a higher detail. It's not doing a lot there. And let's have a look at this. We're not losing much there. Let's look at other parts of the image. And if we look at this, I don't think we're losing a ton of detail. And notice I'm at 100%. And if we zoom out, so we can apply some noise reduction. And that's my take on this image. There it is before. And there it is after. You know, there's little things you could do. You could use the clone tool here around the hands. And there's little things you could do to just kind of clean it up a little bit. But that's what we've done there. Now, if you want to submit your photos, don't forget, just go fixmyphoto.net, upload your photos there. No more than 3 per person per week. So if you did 3 last week, you can do it later. And Charles is asking, why wouldn't you remove the noise first? No reason. It's just that the noise is not as big an issue to me as the other thing. So what I'm doing is I'm just fixing them in order of priority. So I thought, you know, the first thing when you look at a photo, what's the first thing that looks bad about this is, you know, the white balance, right? So let me see if I can duplicate this. Let me show you something here. I'm going to duplicate this. Boom. Okay, great. And let me bring this up here. Let's bring this up. I want to show you guys something. Make it a little bigger. And let's get that up there. Bah. Okay, let me do that. One of the things about Bridge, I want to show you guys the two side by side. Okay, that's a bug. Let me see if we can get there. If this is not going to do it, then we're just not going to bother. Okay, so I duplicated that photo, and I'm going to right click and go to Develop Settings, and I'm going to Clear Settings. There we go. So that's the before image. That's the original, and there's the image that my after image. There we go. So we can see after, we can see before. Okay, so when I'm looking at this image, the first thing that hits me as wrong is the colors. See there? So we fixed the colors. The second thing that hits me as wrong is that distortion. That distortion is really bad, so we fixed the distortion. The third thing that hits me is this big spot there. So we go rid of that spot, and then we're left with noise. So it's kind of like when you clear out a field. You get rid of the big boulders, and then you get out the big rocks, and then before you know it, you finish off with the pebbles. So you just kind of, that's my strategy. You don't have to do it that way. If you wanted to, fix the noise first, you could. But that's my strategy. All right. So let's look at something else, and we've got another, challenge here. This is quite a challenge with Lynn Clark. Are you here, Lynn? Okay, so Lynn is in here. Yes, there is a constrain crop option. It's just that little padlock. All right, so Lynn is working on this Edinburgh shot, and we got some issues here with her panorama. So let's have a look. And here's the shots. There's the 2 shots. I'm going to select them both, and we're going to open them in Photoshop. So we just select the 2 images, and then we're going to go under Tools. And come on, get there. And then we're going to choose Photoshop, Open into Layers. All right, so we've got this new image now with 2 layers on top. I'm just going to zoom out. And to kind of get rid of some of that warping, I'm going to help Photoshop by telling it where I want it to go. So I'm going to grab the layer on top. And I'm going to drag it over here. Let me just hit the 5 key. And I'm just going to position it somewhere over there. And then hit the 0 key. So all I did is just drop the transparency to 50%. So I could put it in position, and then 0 will show it. Now we want to show the entire canvas. So we go up under the image. And we're going to choose to reveal all. There we go. So this is essentially what's going to happen with the panorama. And I notice this is just kind of rotated. So I'm going to hit Control T or Command T for free transform. And I'm just going to put our anchor point up here, because I know I aligned those 2. And by the way, if you don't see the anchor point, it's this little box there. That will turn it on, pop it there. And I'm just going to pull it down, so we're not going to get, as much warping as we had before. All right, so now we want to merge these two together. So I'm going to select both of these. I'm just going to Control J though. I'm going to make a copy of these just to save it. And I'm just going to Control G just to put it into a group. All right, so one of the problems we're going to have here is we're having an issue here with parallax. And this is where this fence goes here and it's missing there. Let me describe parallax to you and how to avoid that, because by the way, we're not going to be able to, those are not just going to line up. That's impossible. We're going to have to do manual labor. Okay, so this is a good chance for me to flex my new A7S III. I just dropped a review on this morning, just got it yesterday. Very excited about this for video work. Okay, so parallax is when you're shooting with the camera and you rotate it, you can get movement. Now, what you guys can do is just put your finger out right in front of you, line it up with an object in the background. Close one eye, and then line it up with a door frame or something like that. Now, close the other eye. If you can't do the eye trick, just use your hand and cover your eyes. Notice all that movement? That movement is called parallax, and that's because there's a distance between the two eyes that sees things. That's how we get binocular vision. Now, with a camera, because of the way you can rotate, if you're not rotating on what's known as the nodal point, there's a point on this camera where if you rotate there, it's not going to get parallax. If you rotate like this, when you're doing your panoramas, you're going to get parallax. So what you want to do, if you're really serious about it, is get like a tripod head, like a Nodal Ninja or something like that. I have a Manfrotto. But the other way you can do it is just get your finger and just rotate it around. And if you see movement, then bring your finger back a little bit, rotate it around, or bring your finger forward and try to find it. And usually it's around about near the back of the lens is that point of no parallax. And then once you find that point, when you shoot your panorama, put it there and then rotate on that point. See what I'm doing? I'm rotating the camera on that point. Don't go like this. And if you're on a tripod that enables you to move it backwards and forwards, find that point. And then if you do that, you're going to eliminate the parallax. So parallax is what you're seeing here. And this, you'll see objects double, objects will disappear. So I'm going to do my best to kind of just show you how you would get around this, because this is the photograph you've got. So we do want to stitch these photos together. Let me just have a look there. We've got that. Let me grab the top one. Okay, so we're just going to kind of line these up roughly about there. And then, so what you're going to do is on this layer, just create a layer mask. It's going to be easier to do it now. Grab a brush. Let's increase this brush and just kind of make sure we set that color to black. So we're going to be painting with black on this layer mask. And then just paint that away. So we're doing just paint it away right there. Great. Now what we want to do is select both layers. And now we're not going to do this manually. We're going to let Photoshop do the work. Select them both, and then we're going to choose Edit, Auto Blend Layers. And click on here and Panorama. I notice it's a little off, so it might not look good, but let's see. We'll see how well it does. And that's not bad. And notice that we also had that setting when I was in here, the auto blend. Let me just show you something. Where do we go? Auto blend. It's highlighted because I turned off. I forgot to just tell you one of those settings. That's why we go. Let me just show you something here. Click on it again. Notice I had this turned off. Seamless tones and colors, and also content aware transparent areas. And then when we do that, Photoshop uses content aware fill to clean up. Now you've still got some manual labor to do here, but boy, is this looking a lot better, right? This is getting us a lot of the way there. So we kind of gave it a little hint of what we wanted it to do. And then at this point, we just create a layer on top. We're going to grab our, I'm looking for my pen. We're going to grab our clone stamp tool. Make sure all layers is turned on for sample. Alter option, let's just get rid of that. That was easy. And then that's what you're going to do. You're just going to go in here now and just clone stamp I'm just going to do this really quickly. So it's not going to be perfect. In fact, it's going to be far from perfect. But just to show you, you know, what you could do, or maybe this goes over the top. So I'm just selecting that, paint it over there. You know, you'd go in here, clean that up a little bit. You know, not like that. Let's go further back. We go. Yeah, you get the idea. Oh, let me do it. Let me do it. I'm being lazy. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I get lazy. And then we go in there and just kind of paint it. And then, you know, you would go in there and just keep working on that. Down here, what are you going to do? I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. Go on that side. And what I'm doing is I'm hitting the Alt or the Option key to sample. Why don't I zoom in and stop being so lazy? And that will get the sample. And then I'm just moving. You can see the overlay. And then we can just paint over those areas. And same thing here. You're just going to go over there. You're just going to slowly just go through. You're going to fix it all up. You're probably going to paint this in here because we don't want that. I'm not going to make this perfect, but we'll get somewhere. And so we're just going to grab maybe the edge of this. Well, let's grab the edge of that, and then we'll grab that actually here. There we go. And it doesn't have to be perfect because nobody knows what this is really supposed to look like. So what you're doing is you're just trying to avoid, you know, areas there where things are doubled up or just looking weird or off. And then, you know, just go through and then just the same thing there with that clone. And you're just going to go in there just a little bit tighter with that clone stamp and go in and just slowly, that looks horrible. Although, because it's on a new layer, you can always go there and just mask out the areas you don't want. But you get the general idea. So you're just going to keep playing around with that, and then you're going to get this beautiful panorama shot of Edinburgh in Bonnie, Scotland. Might take this into Camera Raw, so hold down the Avengers. You guys remember what the Avengers are? Shift, Alt, Command, Shift, Option, Control on Windows. That's all three. The Hulk, Captain America, and I don't know, someone else. And then hit the E key, and that creates a new layer on top. Alright, so we've got that, and we're going to choose Filter. We're going to choose Camera Raw Filter, and we'll just do some quick adjustments here. We could just recover those highlights, pop the shadows a little bit. Let's make it a little bit more sunny, because Scotland's always sunny. Actually, you know, it's not, but and we're going to go here. We're going to give it a little pop of clarity, a little bit of texture, a little bit of vibrance, and well, boom. There we go. We're able to create that, and I will save that out just in case that's wanted. And I'll just drop that on desktop. Just do ed for Edinburgh. All right, and essentially, you know, that's how you could go in and get around those issues, because you couldn't just automatically, if you went to automatically blend this is what you would get. So let me just show you so you can appreciate what we did. So if I go here and I grab these two images and I go under Tools and I go under Photoshop and I choose to photo merge, and we go here and we want to create a panorama, and we click OK, and we let Photoshop automatically do the panorama. This is what we were going to get. We're going to get this sticking out here. This is going to be cut off. It's going to be all bent. It's going to be all warped. So that's why I did it the way we did it, because that's just not a typical panorama. We were trying to figure out how to create a panorama out of less than perfect shots. Now, if you shoot it the way I suggested and move it on that point of no parallax or that nodal point, you could just do the automatic panorama like that and it'll stitch perfectly. So anyway, guys, let's drop some questions and answers in here. What we're going to do is we're going to do our questions and answers session, and also we're going to do our afterglow where we hang out. That's our LFL afterglow where we hang out in the chat. But for those of you who just came for the lessons, I'm going to let you guys move on. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, we're doing Live from Lockdown. If you liked it, hit that like button right now. If you haven't yet subscribed to Photoshop Cafe, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. And you'll know when we do this, as well as when we upload our regular tutorials. And also, if you're not on our mailing list on photoshopcafe.com, join the mailing list and I'll send out notifications when we go live. So until next time, guys, I'll see you at the cafe. All right, and for the rest of you regulars that are hanging out, you know what